introductions. Well, I'll make an introduction. Franklin, I almost called him Sandy for some funny reason. Franklin would be the co-moderator today. He would ask most of the questions. If you have any question at all, you can indicate by raising up your hands, and we'll point out to you when opportunity. So, thank you. Without further ado, I would go ahead to introduce us about the LANE program. What LANE hopes to achieve is in furtherance. I won't say in furtherance of the gospel of what Lantern, sorry, hopes to achieve is in furtherance of. Please, can we mute ourselves, please? Thank you. What Lantern hopes to achieve is to build on what LANE has done. Now that we are here, you are in the schools, you have the opportunity to go to schools. What do you do next, right after it? And what we are hoping to do is to build on the knowledge, the experiences of those who have gone ahead of us, to provide a pedestal for us to move further, to learn from their own experiences and what they have learned, and provide a stepping stone for us to do what they have done and even go higher if we can. That's the basic goal of Lantern, provide a stepping stone to move forward for our first year and our second year MBA students. Here I would now move the discussion from myself to Ahmed, and then we'll move over to Uzo for introductions, who they are and what they studied while in graduate school, and all the good stuff. Ahmed.
Thanks, Abdul. Hi, everyone. My name is Ahmed Mustafa. I'm first year, or now close to the end of first year MBA candidate at William & Mary. Also a Pathways Operations Manager intern at Amazon Robotics Fulfillment Center. My background, I studied systems engineering, University of Lagos, graduated 2014. I joined a fintech company called AppZone and spent about almost 6 years, about 6 years there, worked as a project manager and also a software engineer within the period. So that's like a quick summary of my background.
Thank you so much, Ahmed. Uzo, just a brief summary of your background. Then we'll move over to the questions from Franklin.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Uzama Ukebu. I have graduated from Penn State's SMEO program. I'm currently a global product and supply associate. I'm working in a rotational program which focuses on operations, product development, supply chain planning, etc. So I graduated with a degree in operations management from DePaul University in Chicago, Illinois in 2014. After school, I worked in logistics for a year for a third-party logistics company, and then the remainder of the 5 years before going into business school, I worked in distribution, first in wire and cabling distribution, and then in food distribution. And I was a buyer, project buyer for both companies. So that's a little bit about me.
Okay, thank you so much. I would start with Lekon. Lekon, was this what you had in mind, supply chain, and why graduate school, actually William and Mary?
Okay, so maybe I should start with why graduate school. So I think everyone's story is always unique. So my own story is the fact that I've been working in fintech for about 6 years in Nigeria, and I felt I wanted to more like change location and get like a US experience. But I don't want to do that just by getting a job directly, but I just wanted to also do that using like the schooling process to sort of build my own understanding and take a break from work, because I literally have been working without almost taking any break for several years. Well, maybe took few leaves, but just wanted that 2-year break, which I felt I could get with the MBA, and also wanted to explore other opportunities. So basically, I knew that there was the opportunity of making higher income with an MBA degree, and also an opportunity of sort of more like redefining myself in a sense. And I felt the MBA degree would just be a perfect opportunity to do that. Because I have a couple of years of experience, I didn't really want to target like an MSc, which would dive me into more of a specialty kind of role, but I wanted something still more broad. So I was only targeting MBA. And yeah, basically that summarizes why the MBA. The other question was, how was it so far, or has it been so far? Or can you just quickly remind me?
Yeah, I was like, did you have supply chain when you started? Was that the goal?
So with regards to maybe careers, I didn't really have supply chain specifically as the goal. I had more of I was open to just getting into one of the tech companies, particularly Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Amazon, and Apple. That was like if I was setting a goal, that was like the main goal. While the other aspect is the fact that I was also open to different kind of roles. So operations management was one of them. Product management, even consulting was also among. And so that's the thing about MBAs. It allows one to be able to look into several opportunities and see what is available and if you can fit in it. And so as part of just looking out through those opportunities, I was lucky to get into Amazon on the operations management aspect, and which is still something fantastic that I was open to in the beginning. So that's just my own particular journey. It wasn't really targeted at just supply chain management. It was more of a selection of companies I was looking out to get into, and a selection of roles that I'm open to. So I didn't really maybe have like a strong finance background, so I wasn't really targeting finance. I wasn't really targeting marketing. I wasn't really targeting roles that I might not be able to showcase my core strength, because my background was in engineering, systems engineering, and I worked in, even though it's a fintech company, but it was more the software engineering, so what wasn't more into finance. So, and consulting is also close to what I did as a software engineer. So I was also open to consulting. So that's basically my own trajectory towards operations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I forgotten how. Uzo, I know that right after your undergrad, you did supply chain roles. Uh, did that pay any? Did that play any importance in your decision to go for a graduate program in supply chain?
I would say it did. So coming out of undergrad, I already knew that I wanted to get some type of master's degree, whether that was a master's in supply chain analytics or like an MBA focusing on supply chain. And I kind of did more research and figured that an MBA in supply chain would be the best route for me, because I really wanted to grow my skills as a leader, gain more, I guess, financial acumen in the supply chain realm. And so I kind of wanted to be more well-rounded in general as a leader. So that's why I decided to do the MBA. Another reason is because I really wanted to grow, I guess it's kind of similar, grow as a well-rounded leader. What I was doing before the MBA, it was good work. It was good kind of technical work, but I wasn't really getting much exposure to leadership, upper leadership. So those are probably the main reasons why I would say that I went to school. I guess another one would be that, as you can tell by my background, I've worked in different industries. And so I thought the MBA would be a good place to kind of figure out what I really wanted to do industry-wise. Over the summer, my summer internship after my first year, I interned with Eaton Corporation, which is an electrical manufacturer, kind of similar to the wiring and cable distribution company that I worked for before the business school. And I realized I didn't want to be in that sector at all. And so being in the MBA program, you have a bunch of different schools and alumni coming to talk to your school. You have different career fairs to learn about different industries. And that's kind of what I did. And that's how I landed in the pharmaceutical industry.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. For those just joining us, if you have any questions, you can indicate by raising your hands on the screen. And I feel like I have hogged all the questions and moderation. I would hand this over from here henceforth to Franklin to ask the questions and moderate the session. Thank you so much for this, Franklin. Over to you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Ahmed and Uzoma, for joining. So the first question we have on for you guys is, how did you position yourself in terms of your resume and your CV? How did you position your profile so that you could transition to supply chain / operations roles?
You want to go first, Uzoma?
So for me, I would say that I was kind of at a slight advantage just because my background already kind of emphasizes the operation, supply chain, particularly procurement. So I kind of already have that on my resume, but I tried to make sure that I really highlighted any wins I've had in my career pre-MBA. So whether that is for, saying that I made, I assisted on bringing this amount of inventory or managing this amount of inventory, or, getting rid of certain type of waste in a warehouse and making them really quantifiable. I would say that's kind of what, how I positioned myself with my resume. And I make sure to, highlight any type of certifications or anything like that. So when this role that I have now in a rotational program for Bristol Myers Squibb, I'm working in operations. I'm focusing a lot on Six Sigma and Lean methodologies. And so I kind of highlighted in my resume that I've taken Six Sigma courses, where I had, yellow belt or any of those type of things. So I think it's important to highlight in your resume, or when you are applying, or when you're speaking to recruiters, certain technical skills and any type of important wins you've had in your career. Because even if you haven't worked in the supply chain field or operations field, they at least know you're determined. They know that you're an analytical thinker, and you'd be surprised on how many skills in different field can apply to supply chain and operations.
Thank you, Zoma. Ahmed, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, so it's so with regards to my resume, I used to have a 2-pager resume before the MBA, and immediately I joined, the first thing I had to do was to break it down into 1 page. And so I believe every institution has like a template. I basically just picked the CV template, the resume template from my school. which is like a one-pager template that highlights summary, education, regular things you have on your resume. So I basically just showed much of what I've done, the highlights of what I've done in the different roles I've had in the past, and maybe some technical skills, which I actually think I have a lot of those because of the software engineering role, and also maybe some leadership skills and some volunteer roles I've also been in. So it's pretty much basic because it's a one-pager resume, and so we can't really add too many info, so I can't really explain too much in details as to what projects I've worked on, but just highlighting the key maybe job roles and title and activities under those job roles and the skill set I have, and maybe a summary that just highlights what I'm about and what I'm interested in, and also just specifying things that might be in line with whatever role I'm applying to. So I'll always tweak it for any company I'm trying to send my resume to. So for example, for the Amazon one, so my specialization actually is like it's MBA of data analytics, which is like business analytics and entrepreneurship. So the business analytics and supply chain for my school is almost in line. So on my LinkedIn profile, I already have like I added the supply chain aspect of it because I'm taking the same courses as those that specifies supply chain in their specialization, and I was also able to highlight some of the tools, especially ones around maybe data visualization that might be supportive in just showing that you have some business stroke data analytics experience. And I think it's just like Uzoma also indicated, if you have certifications, I actually do not have those certifications, but I had to start learning them because those are really useful concepts, the Six Sigma and the Lean or Kaizen or many of those operations management related certifications. They really, I can say, really would help for you in that role. I personally haven't been certified in any of them because I was just going into operations for the first time. So I just started picking up the yellow belt course and trying to get myself certified on that. But so it's just an highlight of your history, your roles in the past. That's what you most likely put in your resume. And you probably use the template of your school, which I would actually recommend, a one-pager. All right.
I would like to also add to what Ahmed said. So, like you said, the school can help you with the kind of one-page template with the CV. But also when it comes to the certifications, you can ask your school, your student services, to see if there's a certification that you're interested in, because they can also help you with that too. Most schools, I believe, can help you with that.
All right, thank you guys. I mean, I was going to ask a question on certifications, but you guys already touched on it. But now I want to find out, for people on this call or people who are going to watch this video, sometime, and are coming from investment banking or, sales, and are looking to transition into supply chain and operations, what are the transferable skills that, in your experience, you think are necessary to make that transition successful? Anyone can jump on. Yeah.
I'm going to go first.
Okay. So from my own perspective, maybe I could just use something peculiar with my own role at Amazon. I think Amazon is more open to people with different backgrounds, not just peculiar to operations management in particular, or supply chain. So they are usually open to people that can showcase that they can execute. Probably they've also done things that are in line with what they call their principles, the Amazon principles. So even though it's an operations role, the way the candidate is still reviewed or seen is candidate perform when placed in an operations management role, even though your background maybe might be in finance or might be in uh, other disciplines. So it's more around you being able to showcase maybe from your resume, from the way you answer the interview questions, how you can be able to execute properly when put in the situation of an operations manager or in a supply chain management role. So from my own perspective, I think it's an open field that someone with different background, even if it's an investment banker, can still be able to get into. The key concepts with regards to operations, I think operations is every company has like one form of operations within the company, and you could actually even highlight projects that you've worked on that could show that you are able to execute with regards to delivering results when you have like a task in front of you. And that's like the major process with regards to the way Amazon recruits. They're just most likely looking for candidates that can show that they can deliver results, irrespective of the discipline they're coming from. But key highlights will be to showcase some level of knowledge with regards to some technical skills, with data analytics being one good skill to have, being able to use maybe softwares like Tableau or Power BI, or just being able to demonstrate your knowledge about SQL database. Because as an MBA candidate working in operations management, you won't really be working like you'll be more in a managerial position. So you'll be looking at it from a higher level than maybe a fresh entry associate who would actually be doing like the manual work. So with regards to just seeing things from a managerial level, you want to be able to see the bigger picture, and you want to be able to show that you can, deliver results when it comes to seeing the bigger picture of an operation. So like the background is going to help if you're more in the technical aspect, but it's an open field, I feel, that many of the different disciplines can jump into. Okay, Uzoma, you can highlight.
Uzoma, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, cut for a second. Yeah, so I 100% agree with Ahmed. What he said was pretty correct. I would say that's pretty. It applies to different industries and different companies as well. I would also like to add, like, I guess, like not maybe a basic or like a general skill that I think is important to know well is Excel, because that's something that you'll definitely be using in a supply chain role at some point. And you don't have to be like, a master Excel guru or anything, but just having like at least an intermediate skill set of that is important, because like my company, for example, BMS, we do use things like Tableau and Power BI. However, one thing I'm noticing on my team a lot is that there's Excel files, like, getting passed back and forth to a bunch of different people. And it's important to at least understand the data that you're viewing on that. But yeah, like Ahmed said, I think having skills that show that you can get the job done at the end of the day is really the most important. Maybe having great communication, being able to organize your day or have high organizational skills is also very important. So having the soft skills too is just as important as having the technical skills as a leader. especially when you're looking at things at a high level, you're going to want to be able to communicate whatever data you've gathered from the technical people and be able to convey that message to your team or to another team or to the company. So yeah, I would say that Ahmed kind of said everything that I was planning on saying.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I can emphasize the Excel part too, just to cut you, Franklin, sorry. Yeah, the Excel part is a huge deal because it's something that you get to work with almost like, and you can quickly pick up macros too, just even because you might just be working with a lot of Excel that just pulls data. But basically, just knowing how to use Excel is like, from my own, at least, view of things, is really like a must, because you get to really make it a lot of different Excel sheets that pulls different data. Yeah, just to reemphasize that. All right, go on, Franklin.
All right, thank you, guys. So we know that for certain roles or certain industries, being part of certain organizations help, just like, for example, TOEIC for people who want to go into finance and all that. So for people who are like seeking a career transition or, getting a role in supply chain and operations, what organizations do you feel like people should join? Which organizations have you joined? And how, can one, pursue that networking in terms of, ensuring that they are on the right page in networking with the right professionals in that field?
I can go. So while I was at Penn State, I was the president of the Diversity MBA Association. I was also the VP of Integrity and Communications for our MBA association, and I was a member of the Supply Chain Association. I think joining a association specific to what you want to do is important. So Supply Chain Association was very important to me because, I could go to a mixer or an event and have alumni there who are already working in supply chain, and they can, I can network through them, and I could get a better idea of what their company is looking for, what skill sets I need for the company, and kind of their own supply chain and operations there. I think it's also important too, though, to kind of be involved in other organizations, kind of like how I was part of diversity and the MBAA, because you kind of learn about yourself as well in those organizations. You learn about yourself in the leadership role. Like when I was the president of DMBAA, I, threw some virtual events because we were in a pandemic, and it kind of taught me a lot about how my organizational skills are, how I'm able to execute an event, the planning, everything. So I think joining an organization that is part of your of what you want to do is important, but also joining other organizations to kind of grow your soft skills or grow other skills that will apply to your future roles is just as important.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm still a newbie to the field. I haven't really joined any major organization with regards to maybe like one of those, like the way engineers would join maybe IEEE or somebody for supply chain management. I'm not sure I've even really delved into trying to find if there are such organizations. I know there will be for different aspects of supply chain. Maybe if you're into logistics, so there might be like a logistics association or some different council of supply chain management. But with regards to what, just something similar to Zoma. So like I'm also like in this year be part of 2 leaders for an IT and operations club at William & Mary. So I think that's just in a way to also gather many of this information and make it available for students to be able to better understand the industry. So with regards to organizations, I haven't really joined any, but I feel if you maybe go into the track of trying to be certified as a Lean Six Sigma professional, so that's more like a recognized. So let's the community of Lean Six Sigma professionals might be like the recognized community to be in, to be able to showcase skill sets in supply chain management, because that's like one of the most highly used certifications in the field. So I would consider that as being a body, but I'm not so sure if that is really like an organization where you have to be attending communities.
All right. So my last question for this session is, what's the recruiting process like? For consulting, it's like, cases and, casework, fit interviews. How does supply chain and operations work?
So
you want to go first? Yeah.
Go ahead. Oh, okay. I would say that it really depends on the company. Sometimes you'll have a little bit more. You'll see some case-based interviews. I know that with some tech companies, or depending on the role you do within in supply chain and operations, they might have that. But I didn't really experience that during my MBA journey. When I interned with Eaton Corporation at National Black, it was at the National Black MBA conference. I had only 2 rounds of interviews, and they were all behavioral. And when I interviewed for Bristol Myers Squibb, it was all behavioral, just kind of like a panel interview. I've had a number of panel interviews. One thing you might come across is having to give a presentation. I know for one company, I had to give a presentation about myself and about kind of a big, I guess, a career event or a career win in my life. And I had to present this to a panel with a series of questions. So I would say that it varies depending on the company.
Ahmed?
Yeah, I will emphasize that it actually does vary depending on the company. And so for companies such as, say, Amazon, it's more peculiar to trying to understanding the candidate has like the principles that Amazon is actually following. So for someone, maybe if you're applying to Amazon, I just recommend you look up the 14 leadership principles. That is really highly recommended for anybody interviewing for any role basically in Amazon. So even the operations management role. So with regards to, so that's like the key insights, trying to tell more of a story around the different questions they might ask you. So they usually ask like behavioral questions, and there's actually like a technique of answering that question that is also very highly recommended. It's called the STAR technique, STAR. So you're expected to answer the question by stating the situation, the task. So the situation, you describe the situation you're in, then you explain the tasks that needed to be done, then you detail the action that you took to achieve that task, and then you review the results of your actions. So that STAR technique is very common for this is peculiar to Amazon, but I feel it's also a very good technique to any other company, because it just allows you highlight the key point with regards to a story you're trying to tell. So when they ask those kind of behavioral questions. So, and what I would recommend is I think for me, it's also trying to just research about that role and that company, because once you just do the research, you realize that there's a whole lot of content available online. So either it's on YouTube. For my own situation, I had like a channel on just applying to Amazon, and that channel had like, I can't count the amount of videos. So the lady, I can just mention the name. I might drop the link maybe later. Her name is Oli Lee. So if you search on YouTube for maybe applying to Amazon or something, it just highlights all the different ways most likely you'll be getting the questions asked, and it has like maybe a video might be up to 3 hours, so you can have like maybe hundreds of those. So it now depends on how much you're interested in that company to find those kind of resources. Because Amazon is big, the content easily available. So for other companies, peculiar to supply chain, you may not have as much content out there. But if you do put in the work in researching on just applying to those roles, you would realize that there's a ton of content. You might have to read a book. So like in my own situation, I had to read the Amazon way just to even understand the Amazon principles. So there are 14 principles, very common principles for leadership in Amazon that sort of highlight different. So, for example, bias for action, customer obsession, deep diving. So those key principles, they expect that you should be able to showcase multiple of them in any of the questions they ask you. So you should be able to tell a story from your own background, your own unique experience. So everybody has unique experiences. So there's no formula to answering it. It's just that the template is kind of the same because they're trying to look out for those principles in your story, but your story is unique to you. So I think in getting those kind of roles, it's just you have to reflect back on your own history to really bring out those stories, because you might have actually forgotten that you've done a lot of fantastic things in the past. So it's not until when you are in front of the interviewer you start remembering many of the things you're trying to do in the past or you've done in the past. It's for you to have more like even written it down in a way, just highlight different stories, maybe different projects that you've worked on, and being able to present it in such a way that they can see the situation, the task, what you actually did, not just what your team did, but what you in particular did and the result. And if you can master just putting all of that together, I think it's one of the easiest way of getting into such a role. So I think that's my own highlight. But you have to really have that desire to want that role or that or join that company. So you have to, with that desire, you will go and put in the work to research and find out what is unique about this company. What do they really ask? So I think that was really missing when people apply to companies. When you apply to, especially with the MBA, you might apply to a lot of companies and you might just lose track on even trying to. It's just like the similar thing with when you're trying to even apply to get into the MBA into a school. So you would want to apply to a lot of companies, but you also want to put in the work to ensure your application is tailored towards that company, and you've done the work to know what for example in your case would be, in maybe applicant's case would be what the school wants. So in this situation, it's what the company wants. So in particular to whatever company you're applying to, you need to find out what is it that drives that company and be able to showcase that you are in line with that. So whatever the culture is like at that company, be able to showcase that you're absolutely in line with that culture. You're absolutely in line with what they expect you to be able to deliver, and you can also come up with stories from your own past experiences that highlights that you are going to be able to deliver results in those roles. learning and being curious is one huge principle to at Amazon, that you just have to be able to showcase that you've done things that made you, you know, put in the effort to learn more newer things and was able to execute properly. So for that, I think every company has their own unique structure, but there's still some templates that you can learn from applying to different companies, and the way they structure their questions. If you just put in the effort to research online, you would come up with a ton of answers to that. You could just go on is a Quora or something, just type the question, and you most likely see a ton of responses from those maybe who used to work in the company or who are still working in the company, just highlighting what the structure of maybe the assessment process might be like, or the interview process might be like for that role at that company. And that would go a long way, because I feel I can't the impact of the YouTube channel, just one YouTube channel was a lot for me, because the person really broke down every detail about applying to Amazon with regards to understanding the leadership. And I also want to highlight, if you know someone that has been through that process, it's very helpful to link up with that person, get insights from that person. I had a someone who was in a second year that has also gone through the process at Amazon, and was also able to guide me through my application process, and just, put me into the right direction. Read this book, The Amazon Way. It talks about the leadership principles. Go just come up with your stories, and even during the process, because it's usually like a long process. Maybe might first start with having like assessment, or now have interviews. You want to also have peers that you could do like mock interviews with. So this is also a good point to also use your career advisor. So your career advisor, even though they are old and maybe might not have applied to companies in recent years, but they are very, very knowledgeable about what different companies might be interested in, and they can actually put you through, because they've probably done the same for a lot of students. I feel people might not be aware that they can really utilize their school's career advisor to just, be able to guide them through those applications, because it takes a whole lot of work that it's more like a competition, because there are several business schools. If you're just looking at it from business school angle, and sometimes it might not be open to just business schools, it's open to most everybody. So those who are not even just fresh out of school, maybe that have graduated a long time, and those maybe having MSc, different degrees. So it's more like a competition that you need to get as much advantage as possible. And the advantage is you knowing what the company actually wants, what they want for that role, and what the process is like, and doing the proper preparation to get it. So the preparation might just be you just having mock interviews with your peers, maybe your friends. Just call them up. Okay, for example, I know that they usually ask this set of behavioral questions, so let me just try answering them to you, and you just tell me how I performed. That alone is a huge deal. You might not realize how huge the deal is until you're sitting in front of your friend and answering the question. Your friend's like, "Really? Is that what you tell the person?" Like, because you just be coming up with a story, and it just shows that you are not prepared, versus someone who has actually done the process, multiple times. And when the actual final day comes, when the interviewer asks you, you are not now, doing trying to come up or recall the story. You already have everything in your head, so you're just giving it to them back to back. Like, it's something that you are expecting. So it shouldn't be surprising when they ask you different questions at that interview, because you've sort of put in the effort to prepare for it. So I think the highlight there would be just do the work, do the research for whatever company or whatever role you're applying to, operations management role. So if you have to read books just to get it, read those books. So you might have to, you know, reduce some of your other activities. Maybe if you're a movie lover like me, you might have to cut down your movies just to ensure you can put in more time into that preparation and make use of those that have gone through that process. If you have alumni from your schools that are working in that company, that's a huge plus. They can actually do internal recommendation that might even boost your profile. So linking up with those alumni or current students working in the company that you want to join, and also just getting your career advisor to also guide you. Those career advisors are very, very, very knowledgeable about different companies and the kind of questions they usually ask, because most of the companies, they don't really change their recruitment style. So Google will always ask certain type of questions, the Google style. Facebook will ask it this Facebook style. Amazon will ask it the Amazon style. Any company, most companies don't just wake up and change their HR process. So they usually would have like a technique of how they assess candidates. So you just need to tap into knowing what that company's technique is, and just ensuring you put in the effort to prepare. I just wanted to elaborate more on that.
Thank you so much for the answer. It was very, very elaborate. Thank you so much. I'm sure we've all learned a lot from both Leko and Uzo this period. Are there any questions? We are coming up to the end. We just have a few more minutes. Do we have any questions at all? Well, in the absence of questions, I just have one final one. I want you to make it as short as possible, please, so that we don't take too much of your time. In one word or in two words. You said something about resume. You said something about resume. Is it a one-pager or a two-pager? Leko, then Uzo.
So I would say one pager based on the view of what I've seen. But if you have a lot of maybe more than 10 years experience and maybe are into academia with trying to highlight some of the papers you've written, then you can extend to two-pager. But just for fresh out of school or fresh out of the MBA, I think you can stick to one-pager.
Okay, one-pager. Uzo.
Yeah, I agree with Ahmed. I have nothing to add. He was basically spot on.
Okay. There's a question here. It says, is the Amazon online assessment process same as the full interview?
Yeah, so there's the assessment stage and there's the interview stage. So the assessment stage is usually obviously before the interview stage. And that is going to be a stage where you might just be asked more like, what's all this? I'm trying to remember what they call that kind of test, like just a test to understand your personality. So there's no answer to that. It's just you feeling how you would behave based on your own personality. However, there's also maybe another aspect, which is now the more technical one, which is like they might give you like situations and expect you to select. So for example, they might give situations of how someone behaves. So I can't give extra, I don't even have the info of the exact kind of question, but just more like a situation of if you have this problem within maybe this warehouse and you have these options, which one would be the most insightful maybe data to get? So if you're having a problem with sales and someone is showing you data with HR, someone is showing you data with maybe some other different aspects within the company. So you're supposed to sort of select which ones you would really required to solve that problem. I think that's the kind of technical one with regards to the assessment. Then after the assessment stage is now the interview stage. The interview stage is now where it's more into the leadership principles and you using the STAR technique, because you are now in front of someone that will be asking you still more of a behavioral question. Maybe talk about a time you did something, something, something. So you have to be able to explain using that STAR technique, the situation you were in, the task, the action you took, and the result. And you must also be able to highlight those principles in the question, in the answer you're giving back. So I think that summarizes the assessment and interview. And it's the same as a full-time one as well. There's no difference between the set of questions for an internship and a full-time role. It's still the same set of questions you'll be asked.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ahmed Lekan, for coming today. And thank you so much, Uzo. Thank you for calling in. I understand the experiences or the challenges we had connecting with everyone. And like I said initially when we started, the goal of Lantern is to provide us the opportunity to learn more from those who have gotten into internship and full-time positions, how we can position ourselves and the actions we can take to accomplish this. Thank you so much for your time today, Lekan and Uzo. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, and your experiences with us. We deeply, deeply appreciate this. And thank you for giving out your time for Lane, even in other areas. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good evening. And yeah, thank you, Franklin. I won't forget that. Thank you for making our time also. Good evening, everyone. I think we are done for today. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Uzoma, my lamp mentor.
Yes, no problem. If anyone ever has any questions, they can just reach out to me via LinkedIn.
Sure. Yes, same here.
Thank you.
Cool.